are in a state capture situation. Our country has been taken hostage by a criminal enterprise gang that are in our legislature, in our executive, and unfortunately today in our judiciary. Because it is, don't clap for me, I don't want claps. I didn't come to get any claps. We actually should have ashes on our foreheads and grieve a country that continues to backslide with every electoral cycle.
I'm a king, yes.
I had a sense of what I was going to say until yesterday. And so I have thrown away what I was going to say. And now I am going to say the things that need to be heard. The president of Nigeria decided to assault our democracy, to violate our constitution, to basically turn this society to a society without the rule of law. This democracy cannot be hijacked by a bunch of networked, corrupt people who have taken over the institutions of governance of this country. It will not happen. There are Nigerians who will resist the idea that our democracy will be desecrated in the way that we have seen. We have seen a young woman, a member of the National Youth Corps, NYSC, who dared to call attention to the state of poor well-being of not just herself, but fellow citizens, with sufficient evidence to prove that she was not just being outrageous. What followed that citizens' feedback on state of governance was an attempt to trample on her right to expression. It will not happen. We will not support it, because that young woman spoke for millions of Nigerians who are suffering the consequences of poorly designed and poorly implemented economic reforms by this administration. The senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who had a situation with the Senate President on matter of expressing under Order 10, according to them, where it's almost like Order 10 gives you a two-hander. In other words, I must be heard kind of provision on their rules. And she expressed and was basically suspended. And every one of us who was watching that whole charade at the Senate knew that there was something unusual about the speed with which decisions were made according to the Ethics Committee on Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. And we were wondering, what's going on here? She granted an interview where she basically said there was much more behind what happened on the floor of the Senate. She alleges that the Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria had sexually harassed her at least on 2 occasions. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan stated in response to those who accused her of having been suspended strictly for non-compliance with Senate rules, that she only did not appear before the ethics committee that was to have a hearing with her on that incident that we all watched as Nigerians, because she was sure she would not get fair hearing. And as one interested in evidence for anything that the person says, I decided to read more and say, what was it that made you feel you would not get fair hearing? It turned out that immediately she was marched out and there was uproar in a public space on what happened that day. The staffers of the Senate president went online and began to discredit her and to allege all manner of things about her and her private life. So as far as she was concerned, she was already judged. Of course, the Senate committee followed its own undue process to conclude and to present a report that we all listened to. In the report that we all listened to, which then said they were going to suspend her for 6 months, another violation of the rule of law in our country. Because there are judicial precedents that show that you cannot suspend a senator who carries the mandate of their people for 6 months. The minimum that is canvassed is some 14 days or thereabouts, am I correct? Maximum. Oh, maximum. Not only did they go for the kill in terms of separating, alienating her from her legitimacy as the representative of her people in the Senate, they added very terrible markers of punishment. You could see that there was a very strong desire to denigrate and hold her in total indignity. And all we see from the Senate is a continuing denigration of a woman who dared to not stay silent. And yet, we're here, held hostage by a bunch of people who think that just because they rigged themselves in one form or the other, or were properly voted into the Senate, they have taken ascendancy over the people of Nigeria. That is not democracy. And then, the matter of Rivers State. We all followed the public aspects of the fight for the soul of Rivers State. Or did you not? Even if you didn't want to, we were assaulted by it, especially on the side of the federal government, which displayed its raw power as often as possible in order to show that it had a determined game and outcome, seeing clearly that there was no pathway to success. The president decided to impeach a governor of a state in this country. What are we standing here trying to discuss renewing? Anti-corruption agenda. What anti-corruption agenda? Which one? We are in a state capture situation. Our country has been taken hostage by a criminal enterprise gang that are in our legislature, in our executive, and unfortunately today, in our judiciary. Because it is, don't clap for me, I don't want claps. I didn't come to get any claps. We actually should have ashes on our foreheads and grieve a country that continues to backslide with every electoral cycle. There's nothing to clap about. We should be in mourning. Because one of the things we identify as the greatest adverse impact of corruption is it attains the form of the effect of cancer on a society. And you all know, when the word cancer is used, what is the next thing people think about? They think about death. Nigeria is in a state of metastasized cancer of corruption. Until society refuses to accept a climate of corruption as a norm, nothing you do on the other pillars would work. So, a key thing that addresses that is actually when the people finally say to themselves, this is too costly for all of us. Corruption as a cancer can kill all of us. It infests the education sector, infests the health sector, infests public works and infrastructure. Oh, tell me about it. There's a thing called the Lagos Coastal Road Project. A project that did not go through any form of public procurement. A project that has all kinds of conflict of interest written over it. It's being implemented. It's the costliest ever allocation of Nigerian public treasury to a project. But in this same country, we did have the due process. And I have to tell you that in those days, I was hated by politicians. Oh my God. Was I hated by politicians? Because suddenly they said Abuja had become dry. As a result of the reforms of President Obasanjo, I hope you all know that by 2006, our external debt went from $28 billion to just $2 billion. Why? Because the rest of the world that we were owing concluded that we were serious about tackling corruption. The results earned us the debt cancellation. Massive debt cancellation. That was, we were not supposed to debt because we were not a hippie country, highly indebted, poor country. No, as an oil exporter, a large oil exporter, there was no reason for us to get the debt. But the global forces of collaboration and cooperation saw the gusto with which that administration was pushing the reforms. Were we doing anything just based on harebrained idea of what to do? No. There were examples around the world. For me, as head of the anti-corruption sub-team within the economic team, I was reading out of the scripts of some of the countries that were engulfed in corruption once upon a time. Think about a place called Hong Kong. Hong Kong in the 70s was totally gone. Until the citizens awoke and said, no, we cannot continue with this level of corruption. It had completely decimated access to public services. And they knew that the absence of public services delivery was going to be a hindrance to attracting investment and to citizens being productive. And so the citizens came together and said, the government must address corruption. It was a turning point for Hong Kong. within a matter of 15 years, Hong Kong began to show up globally as a safe space for investment. That was how it became a financial nerve center of the world. Because the people said enough is enough. With due apologies to you, Lemi Adamole. Consequences of corruption. You hardly find boardrooms where people are saying Nigeria is #1 on my list in most of the world today. Because boardrooms are skittish to corruption. Is it therefore a surprise that 133 million Nigerians are stuck in multidimensional poverty, at least 60% of our population? Another 40.2% are stuck in extreme poverty. Why? Because corruption makes economic growth difficult. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a Nigerian and you're sitting here and you're seeing what's happened at the Senate, in the National Assembly, we've seen many things. We've seen many things that they've done. Do you know that the median income for households in our country is said to be, that data is too charitable, but it says something of $2,000. But guess what it is in terms of the allowances and perquisites of our legislators? It is 90 times that amount. 90 times that amount. In the US, the median household income and the income of their lawmakers is 6 times. You're sitting, you think you have politicians that are working for you. I'm sorry for you. They are working not for you, but for themselves. And that is the perfect definition of corruption. What must we now do? What we must do is to know that no matter how much of evaluation of the institution or the agencies that we did, we would find that they are operating in breach. They are not operating to the level that they should operate. And the reason is the cankerworm of the networked corruption that infests these organizations, these entities. I leave you with a thought. All of these agencies are the supply side of governance. But there is this demand side of governance that is absolutely essential. Today in our country, we don't have a well-designed, concerted demand side of governance. And this is something that we must now build. The demand side of governance should be one that says we are all together in this because we're all suffering the impact. And as Nigerians, we have decided to stare down on the criminal enterprise gang that has taken hold of our democracy. They will be in for a fight when we are ready, like the Hong Kong people, like the Georgian people, like the South Wales people, to deliver ourselves. There is no other deliverer other than each individual Nigerian activating their office of the citizen as those who will collectively hold down the politicians and tell them, thus far have you come, you go no further.
I'm a king, yes, I'm a king, I'm a king,